Now on to the North Node. Everybody is interested in it, and it is an interesting thing to talk about. The North Node in your chart. How about I put some tomatoes here I see that they're registering for beauty shops. The North Node of the Sun is of the Moon. Sorry, is it's basically a point in astrology. It's not a star. It's a point in astrology that indicates where the intersection of the orbit of the Moon and the orbit of the Sun meet, and you have a North and a South node. They are a very complex subject. No one fully understands this subject, and astrology is very much about knowledge meeting intuition. For me, that's everything in life. And because I'll tell you in a little bit why. The way I use astrology is, for me, astrology is not a way to predict the future. I don't care about anything divination, anything. I want to expand my intellectual and intuitive mind, and I want to expand my knowledge. And astrology is the oldest science. It used to be together with math. I used to be very good at math in school, so it naturally resonates with me. Astrology is so profound. If you get into astrology, you will never reach a point where you've learned everything. It's just the more you study, the more there is to study. It's profound. But it's not in a desperate way profound where you're like, I'm never gonna get it. No, because you start to understand it intuitively. The way I use it is to understand deeply myself. I now understand why I am the way I am, what I need to achieve, who I am, and I understand a lot of my behavior and purpose and so forth through just looking at my chart. And when I look at someone's chart, I understand who they are. And that relieves you from guilt or trying to fix yourself from things that you are, or they're potentially your strengths. The North Node of the Moon is your purpose. It's why you chose to come here on Earth, what you need to fulfill since you're here. Now, we don't all of us choose to come here. The more awakened we are, the more we have a say in our path and in our destiny. The more asleep our soul is, our spirit and soul, the more we're just like swished by our karma and by just the universal force. We don't choose anything, we just get forced into things. But that's why we want to awaken, because we carry that through lives. And if you don't believe in lives, that's fine, because those concepts just apply to the soul path. Because obviously the soul we're not just born and die. To me it's obvious anyways. There is a bigger path. And the reason why we're born so different is because we did inherit certain things from previous lives. And the physical is just a reflection of the spiritual. And that's why I personally like to work on the physical. And it's in my chart. Everything is in my chart. Profound. The North Node shows you your purpose, whether you chose that or not. If you're an awakened soul, you chose this life, you chose your parents, and even if they're very difficult parents, you chose them because they're the best opportunity for you to put yourself so that you can grow and resolve certain things as a soul that you need to resolve. As I mentioned, my North Node is in in Virgo. Virgos are here to serve in a very day-to-day mundane way, to serve as a nurse, as a nurturer, or more so as a servant, as someone that is there to serve others in a practical way. Also, Virgo rules health through yoga, exercise, through nutrition, very good nutrition, and cleanliness, hygiene. So for me, as you guys know, my obsession is to be healthy, right? Because I need to master that. And it was very difficult for me to master it because we come from our South Node, which is our achievements from a previous life. So our South Node comes naturally to us. We are our South Node. Those are our easy talents, not because they're just gifts, but because we've achieved them, we've worked on them in a previous life. So my south node in Pisces means that I had a very spiritual past life, or many very spiritual past lives, of a priestess, of a seer, of a sage, of a healer, and so forth, or just a yogi on a mountain, for example. And I just could completely disassociate with the small, the petty, the mundane, and just be in this higher sphere of life and understand the spiritual, understand the ethereal, the non-tangible. So I come with this is easy, I can do it, I understand it, there's nothing to learn about it, I'm just that, I can float like this. And because by placement of house, my north node goes into the 11th house, that means I was able to do that through the community, in altruistic way, through the community. So for example, I could have been, with that reading, a spiritual woman in a village, for example, where I would provide spiritual counseling for the village. Now, once you hit 30 something, you start going towards your north node, and you start obsessing more and more. You obsess over your north node early on, but you're just bad at it. For example, up until I understand how to do the big and that, right? Obviously, I made a lot of mistakes along the way just because I didn't know how to do it. No one was there to teach me. No one was there to teach me. I had to do it all on my own. So now I'm going towards my north node. North node is your purpose for this life, and it kind of clicks in after 32. But it is all along there, and I have to learn the things that I'm totally terrible at, which is being practical and paying attention to the mundane, to the day-to-day, to the routine. That's all Virgo. But thank goodness it's in 5th house, which is doing it in a creative, artistic, expressive way on stage. So in a way, YouTube or creative yoga and creativity is my outlet. So I'm learning to tap into my creativity, which was all along there, but I didn't care about it, and to serve through it. So I'm using my desire to serve in creative way as my purpose. That's my purpose. The way you are going to read your north node is you're going to read a bunch of sources, because not one source is going to be 100% applicable to you, because it is such a vast subject, and you're gonna read a lot so that your understanding of it expands and you intuit through it. There is no formula that's gonna resonate with everybody. Plus, your chart is very unique to you. It has it's not just signs and houses, but it's also aspects, and it's also what parts of the chart are awakened, and it's rulers of houses and so forth. It's big. And when you understand your north node, you're gonna understand a lot of the things that are dear to you, why you're doing things, or why do you feel lost, why do you keep wondering where you belong, what you should do. This is just the beginning. And then when you look at other placements in your chart, your sun is, when people ask you what's your sign, they are asking you what's your sun sign. Your Mercury is your mind. So again, house placement and sign placement will show you how your mind works. Aspects will show you how it relates to other parts of your life. And you can apply astrology to other people's charts and see how you two relate, or how karmic your relationship is, have you met before, and so forth. If a few of you said that your north node is in Capricorn, you are moving towards structure, from home, from being quiet and shy, from very introspective, to having to be a leader in a more structured organization. And how you will do it, you will have to look at your placement by house to see how this is going to be done, because it depends on the house placement. This is going to be your means of doing it. But what you have to do is do things in an organized, structured way in society, because Capricorn is the top of the astrological wheel, so it's the most visible. You're gonna be generally the leaders in society are there in the Capricorn area, and they're doing things in a more government organizational way. It doesn't mean that that's how you're gonna read it. You can still be a very alternative person. You can still be an artist and just have to do things in a structured way. For me, Capricorn is at the top of my chart, where my career is, and that's where my moon is. That's why my career, the way you guys see me, what you see is the top of my chart, and that's where my moon falls, and moon is the nurturer. So that's why I am the nurturer in my career. But that doesn't mean I'm the nurturer at home, or that I'm a nurturing person in general. That means that where my career will spark up is gonna be, I'm gonna be the nurturer on a larger scale, right? And then you just keep looking at your chart and you keep learning. It's a long process. So if it doesn't interest you now, forget about it, because it's a commitment that kind of takes a while. But if it interests you, just keep deepening your interest. Learn definitely your Mercury, your Mars is your power, how you move forward in life, what inspires you, what motivates you, how direct you are at reaching your goals. And for example, my Mars and Mercury are both in Aries, so my mind is very strong. It's a strong Aries mind, masculine mind. And Mercury too, my speech is also direct in Mercury, very direct, very honest. But then they're in 12th house of spirituality, so all my directness and in all my fire and power will go in spiritual areas. I'm only going to work in spiritual areas because it's all placed in an area of spirituality. So all this fire goes into this gentle house of water, of most awakened placement, where you become one with the divine and so forth. So I can talk about it forever, but it is confusing when you first get started. I would say, I will list a few books below. I would say read a few books and read just the basics, the boring basics. They're not boring. Astrology is never boring. Read what all signs mean, then read what all houses mean, then read placements for yourself and your husband or partner or brother and so forth of signs, planets in signs, like what is Venus in Cancer, if you have that, what is Venus in Libra. You also have a rising sign, which is very important. The rising sign shows how you look. For example, I'm a strong Aries, but my rising sign is in Taurus and my moon sign is in Capricorn, so I have this groundedness, very deeply grounded, earthy. And how I appear to in my career, I'm earthy because of the Capricorn, and how I appear to you physically is grounded because Taurus is my appearance, my physical body, the way strangers see me. I would come across more as a Taurus to a complete stranger than I would come as an Aries, even though I have Sun, Mercury and Mars in Aries, but I would still come off as a Taurus to a stranger. But to someone that knows deeply my my ego self, that's the Sun. They would see it as Aries. And then the house will be where it will be most this energy directed. So I will direct all this fire energy into and so forth. So I'm giving you an example with my chart, and maybe in the future I can do something like this with someone else's chart. I'm pretty intuitive with charts. When I look at a chart, I can understand the person. And sometimes, because people don't do such psychological analysis of themselves, they don't understand themselves, and that leads to more confusion and suffering than if you take the time to study and understand yourself. My battery is dying. It's a long talk. Let me know if this is very confusing, if I need to go back into like the very beginnings, or this is good enough, it gets you to study it. And